Greetings all, and welcome back to Simple Living Happy Home. When my husband and I decided we were going to try to have a baby, it was stressful enough in itself, but the idea of having to afford all of the stuff for baby was even more stressful for me. Today I'm going to walk you through how we broke down all the expenses to be able to afford our child without any debt. We're not going to go into how much kids cost because frankly, it's just depressing. Ultimately though, kids will create an added expense. There's no two ways around that. Looking at the expense of kids, a lot of it seemed to be within the first year. So I started diving into all of the baby must-haves and frankly was appalled at the laundry list of items that everybody said you needed to have for a baby. Our society is extremely consumer driven. How many people do you know bought something because it made some sort of a promise or bought something because it was the latest and greatest? Just look at weight loss products. Most of them make claims that they can't live up to, and you don't need them in the first place. It's the same for babies. So here is what I think is truly necessary for a newborn: diapers, wipes, clothing, a cradle or bassinet, swaddles, bottles, formula if you're not going to breastfeed, soap, a car seat, nail clippers, and a nose aspirator. Most people would have a much more extensive list than what I named off, but this isn't a list of what is nice to have. This is a list of what you actually need. The main thing is to not let companies and the media tell you what you need to have in order to care for your child. It becomes especially important if you're spending money on items that you don't need versus saving that money and spending it on something that you do need. One of the ways to decrease the cost of baby in the first year is to make the most of your baby registry. Baby registries should not be treated like wedding registries where you put items on there that you definitely wouldn't purchase for yourself, like a nice set of china. Instead, focus on putting items on your registry that are practical, dual purpose, and that baby will get a lot of use out of. How you're going to do this is by first making a complete list of everything you need for baby in the first year. Not want, need. Do your research through looking through blogs, looking at the American Academy of Pediatrics, looking at developmental experts, talking to other moms, and of course, asking your doctor. When you're making this list, focus on the types of items, not the brands. Once you have your list, you want to go through and see if there's anything on that list that could be dual or even triple purpose. For instance, medium to large burp cloths can also be used as a baby towel. They can be used as a baby bib. They can be used obviously for their intended purpose of being for spit up, and they can be used as a baby washcloth. Another place to spend a little bit of time is watching baby regret videos. I did this quite a bit and I found it very informative because a lot of the moms were going through products that they thought that they were really going to need and get a lot of use out of, and they found out that either their child didn't like it or it just wasn't part of their lifestyle to be able to be incorporated. The next thing you want to do with your list is to identify when you would actually need to have those items. So for instance, bottles you're going to want right away, but sippy cups you're not going to need until they're probably 6 months old at least. Try to identify these things in age ranges like 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. These are kind of the big milestone ages in the first year when baby is making pretty big changes and would need a significantly different set of items. So what you're trying to avoid here is building up a whole bunch of clutter of baby stuff in your house when they're not going to be items that you're going to need for 6 or more months down the road. The exception is if somebody purchases something for you that you will need later on. If that's the case, put it into a closet. Don't set it up because baby items always take up more room once they're set up, but just pack it away until you're actually going to need the item. The final step with your list is to organize it by category. The 7 categories that I like to classify baby items under are safety, feeding, clothing, hygiene, sleep, convenience, and play. I follow those specific categories in that order because for me, that is the order of importance. Safety will always win out over everything else, and feeding and clothing are always going to be more important than convenience and play. What this does is if you're short on time or on funds, this helps you put your money towards the items that are going to be the most important for baby's health and well-being. Now that you have probably a very messy list, you can create a master list that might look something like this. In the first column, you have baby's age. In the second column, you have the item. And in the third column, you have it grouped by the type of item. So this is ultimately going to help you ensure that you have all the items that you would need for baby's safety, as well as have those items by the time baby reaches that particular age. Now, if you're interested in finding out how much all these items may end up costing you, you can continue to go through these steps, or you can skip ahead to what not to put on your baby registry. So to continue diving into the cost further, the next step you're going to take is adding 2 columns next to all the baby items that you have on your master list. One column is going to be labeled as basic, and another column is going to be listed as luxury. Then you're going to do a little bit of research into how much of a price range you can expect for each of these items. You're going to add the low-end price to your basic list and your high-end price to your luxury column. This is going to help give you a price range of about how much each item will cost. The next thing you want to do is to discuss with your spouse or significant other how much you guys are comfortable spending on each particular item. What items you're okay with going more of a basic price range, and what items you really would want to invest the extra money and get the higher priced item. As you decide what end of the price range you want to be on, whether it's basic or luxury, you're going to either circle or highlight that price so you know that's the end of the price range that you're going to be estimating with. Once you've gone through all of your items and identified what end of the price range you're going to be buying for each item, now you're going to total up the cost of all of those prices to give you a ballpark estimation of how much the baby stuff is going to cost. When you get that number, if you're not comfortable with it, you can look back on your list and see, are there things that we can take off the list, and are there things that we don't really need the higher end price of? I would only add the things that you're going to need from when baby is 0 to 6 months. As baby grows, you're going to learn what their preferences are, what their needs are, and what your lifestyle is to be able to know what are they truly going to need and what are you going to use from 6 months and on. So that's how you can set up your baby registry to really maximize the benefit that you get from that to minimize how much you end up having to spend. Keep in mind, you will never have all of the items purchased off your baby registry. There will always be some things left there. And so this will allow you to be able to look back on your registry as it gets closer to when baby would arrive, so you can make sure you have all those initial important items purchased. Some things to not put on your registry are things like pacifiers, specific bottle brands, sippy cups, lots of clothes, because most people are going to buy you newborn clothes anyway. Lots of toys, blankets, baby socks and shoes, and multiple teethers and unitaskers. Most of this stuff, if someone found to be useful, they might purchase for you anyway, even if it's not on your registry. Some things to have on your registry to really make it count are things like diapers, wipes, multi-purpose cloths or towels, specific baby clothes that are over a newborn size, like clothes that have zippers and mittens over the cuffs, diaper rash cream and treatments, baby Tylenol, a first aid kit, a monitor, breast milk storage bags if you're going to be pumping, a humidifier or dehumidifier depending on what your climate is like, baby wash, and books. Some additional tips are to always get things secondhand when you can. Things like clothing, toys, books, playpens, and strollers can all be bought secondhand very safely. Get what you can through insurance, like your breast pump if you're going to be pumping. Make good use out of free samples, especially free welcome boxes and welcome bags. A lot of stores will offer you a sample bag or box of products for opening a registry, but that doesn't mean you actually have to use that as your primary registry. With all of the free welcome boxes and welcome bags that we received prior to my daughter being born, we ended up accumulating 14 pacifiers, 9 bottles, including some full-size Dr. Brown's bottles, 12 sample packs of wipes, most of which were water wipes, a dozen or so free diapers, and probably close to 24 sample bottles of baby wash and baby lotion. Another thing with your registry is don't put duplicate items onto registries. If you're going to have more than one registry, don't put the same item on both, because you could end up with different people buying you the same item. And a lot of items you don't need duplicates of. My final tip is make sure that leading up to baby's birth, you are budgeting for baby items as you go. You will never have all of the baby items purchased off your registry, so budget some money aside to make sure that as it gets closer to baby being born, you will have the money set aside to be able to purchase those high priority safety, feeding, clothing, etc. needs. Well, that covers kind of the main pointers and tips that my husband and I came up with along the way of preparing for our daughter to be born and to save a little bit of money along the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything to come, and I'll see you soon.